Hi, I'm Brynne Kennedy, co-founder and managing partner of BCP Ventures, and we are live from Davos with Blaine Mathieu, the CEO of Pratexo. And we recently led Pratexo's seed round from BCP, and super excited for you to tell everyone today a little bit about what Pratexo is doing.
Excellent. Well, thank you for inviting us here. Pratexo, we describe Pratexo as the edge-to-cloud solution acceleration platform that's required to electrify the world. And think of it this way, the last 20 years have all been about moving software into central clouds, and that's fantastic. But as we're getting these increasingly complex systems working, we need to process more and more data closer to where it's generated. It just cannot all possibly be put into central clouds. And so we built the platform to accelerate that movement and to allow low latency, real-time, highly secure applications to run close to the edge, and yet still retain the power of cloud computing, the flexibility and scalability that we've all got used to with putting things in the cloud.
Yeah, this is great. And it's not an easy problem to solve from a software perspective. You've got an amazing team, ex-Google, IBM, and PayPal, many other places, building this software platform to power our decentralized world. So tell me a little bit about how customers are using Pratexo today.
Well, we are particularly focused on the electrification space. Our flagship customer is in the Norwegian power grid, a company called Hallingdal Kraftnet, that is using Pratexo edge-to-cloud computing software today to take a bunch of data on the transformer edge that used to be dark, that really wasn't being used because there's just too much data. It had to be kept local and secure. Now they're finally processing it, able to keep their system, their grid up and running at a higher availability level, also reduce massive costs in terms of maintaining the system over time. Recently, we won the ABB Startup Challenge, actually, and now we're working with ABB on a global partnership to bring some really interesting advanced analytics. We call them an expert system to bear. So really taking the power and knowledge of human beings and putting it into the software to make sure ABB equipment is always up and running for their customers in the electrical grid. And then finally, maybe a final one is a company called Anywhere. The electric vehicle EV charging space is just booming right now, as you can imagine. In fact, I see a bunch of electric vehicles going by us right now. And the complex integrated applications it takes to connect solar power generation, the grid, real-time battery storage, and then real-time charging as different kinds of vehicles are plugging in, that requires the kind of low latency, always available ability to process massive amounts of data, and that's what we're building with Anywhere right now with our software.
Great. Well, congratulations on winning the ABB Startup Challenge. We all saw ABB's ads when we landed in Zurich Airport about the future energy grid, and I was thinking that Pratexo should have been up there at the Zurich Airport as well, right alongside.
Next year.
We'll look for that next year at Davos. So those examples are fabulous. So talk to me a little bit about how Pratexo fits into the broader conversation on energy transition and climate change then.
Yeah, great question. And I know when we first met, Pratexo was originally envisioned as a horizontal platform. This notion of edge-to-cloud computing is relevant to pretty well every industry, or having to take the power of cloud computing and spread it all the way to where the data is generated. But what we've really found in the last year, and from my examples you see it, is a lot of traction in the electrification space. My former Gartner colleagues described the 4 Ds of power transformation that are happening right now. Digitalization, obviously, the decarbonization, democratization, and decentralization of systems. And all 4 of those things are really relevant to Pratexo, which is why we're focused on this space. Can I dive into that a little bit more?
Sure.
Well, I'll leave digitalization for last, because that's exactly where Pratexo really addresses many of those issues. But decarbonization is a really critical trend, and people think that, well, electricity equals decarbonization, but not necessarily. 2/3 of electricity today is generated with natural gas and coal. So we know by 2050, we need to get, the World Economic Forum says, we need to get to between 50 and 80% non-carbon generated electricity in the next 25 years or so. So it's a huge win that's blowing behind this market, and it's creating all these opportunities that we talked about earlier. Decentralization is just a critical trend for us, because this notion of edge to cloud computing is very suited to massively decentralized systems. And that's really how we designed our software platform right from the get-go. Democratization is interesting because we're seeing a lot of prosumer implementations of power generation these days. For example, I've got a 30 kilowatt solar array on my roof. 2/3 of the year, my meter actually runs backwards, right? I'm actually giving power back to the grid instead of using it. My neighbors are all doing the same thing. That dramatically increases the complexity of these power grids and transformer networks, and you need real-time software to handle that. And that's really what the digitalization is all about. We saw what was necessary. When we think of electrification, we often think of hardware, right? We think of solar arrays, hydrogen powering stations, but behind that is software. And like I know you know, as Mark Andreessen said, software is eating the world. And so you need that hardware, but you need software to make it happen. And that's why Pratexo was created.
Great. Well, you guys are right at the center of it and very topical here at the World Economic Forum this week. So finishing up, what are you most excited about this week, Ben?
Well, I'm just stoked to be here, honestly. I've followed Davos for many years, and especially with a focus on carbon reduction and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And then as Pratexo really started to focus on this space over the last year or year and a half, it seemed to me that this could be a great fit. And when you invited us here a few weeks ago, I was just super excited. So thankful for that.
Right. Well, we're so happy to have you here. And thanks so much. This is Blaine Mathieu, the CEO of Pratexo.